It's important for us to understand how church hurt is just like grief, because they are one and the same. You are suffering a loss, a deep shock to your system, and you're trying to figure out, what do I do? Where do I go? Who do I turn to? And for a lot of people in the church is what we were taught to turn to. The people in the church were the people we were taught to turn to. But in this case, that is not the place or a safe space to go. They're not safe people. And because of a few people, it might turn into us attacking or shying away from everybody who affiliates with the church, whether you're a Christian or another religion, or even if you don't believe in any of that stuff and you're an atheist. And so it is important for us to be respectful when we hear or find out that someone is dealing with the pain that people have caused attached to the church, because it is a loss. And with any loss, it takes time, and we have to work through it, understand what it is and what we need to do, so that we are not taking it out on other people, or we're not holding it in and taking it out on ourselves. And don't worry, I will continue to make these videos in my series on church hurt called Tired of This Church, so that we can shine a light on how we can address the pain and the grief that comes with being hurt by people in the church. So take care and check out this video.
Now, you know I could not talk about grief without talking about church hurt. And I will be discussing different topics that fall under church hurt. And it's going to be titled, Tired of This Church. Because if you know, you know. And if you don't know, you about to find out. Why? Because a lot of times people leave the church because they were hurt by the church members, not by God, by some of the members. And so with that, you have all of this stuff that you're carrying, and it's not even your stuff. And if you're like, now wait a minute now, how you gonna come and talk about church hurt? Like, what do you have to say about that? Like, what's your expertise? Well, let me tell you. I spent most of my life around people who knew God, whether they were still in the church, they left the church, they were thinking about leaving the church, they had another religious belief system, different denominations, or they were just atheists. Plus, my school education was all private. I'm talking Catholic, Lutheran, and Baptist. And so I've been around all kinds of people, talked to different ones, and we've discussed spirituality, religion, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of times people were grieving because they were hurt by people in the church, whether they intentionally did it or they had no idea that their words and actions hurt them. And on this episode of Tired of This Church, we're going to be talking about two-faced people in the church. What do I mean by two-faced? What I mean is this: they smile, they laugh, they talk to you, they're your friend, they cheer you up, they listen to your business, and then they turn on you. And when they turn on you, baby, they turn. You're going to be asking yourself, who in the world are you? Like, what happened? I thought we were close. I thought we were friends. I thought we were fam. But in the end, you realize they were all about self. You were a means to an end. And the tricky thing about people who are two-faced in the church, they have a support system that's going to protect them. So if you think, oh, I'm just going to tell so-and-so, they'll squash it, not necessarily. They might boot you out the way for the two-faced one. Why? Because maybe they have a closer bond, or they just refuse to believe that the two-faced person is two-faced. But they have no problems believing you're the problem. And when people go through this, they don't know what to do because they were taught church is where you go when you're in pain. Church is where you go for guidance. But when you go for guidance, you go to deal with your pain, and they turn you away, or they call you a troublemaker, they call you a problem. What do you do with that? And a lot of people don't know how to separate the two-faced folk from the real folk. And that could lead to them going around and being negative and chaotic at every church or every event that they go to. They can start treating people the way they were treated in church, or they can start treating people as if they are dealing with unfinished business from church. What am I saying? You could end up fussing at people, being disrespectful, snapping at people, and the people in front of you aren't even the problem. You're still holding on to that church hurt, and you blaming everybody for that church hurt. What can you do about it? Number one, acknowledge after you take your breath. Acknowledge, yes, that was wild. Yes, so and so, or for some people, so and so, so and so, the whole crew, two-faced. They don't represent who they claim to represent, which is God. And if you're like, what are you talking about? Well, in the Bible, Jesus says, with love and kindness have I drawn thee. So if you're not drawing people with love and kindness, if you're not giving people grace or understanding, if you are just rude, cruel, and out of control, you're not doing that in Jesus' name. Show me in the Bible where that's at. And so it's important for you to understand that people are individuals that happen to fall into groups, but it's important to see people or groups as individuals in a group. What am I saying? All church people are not out the box. There's a good percentage, because if you know, you know. And with me being in church my entire life, all I'm going to say, you know. And we could trade stories for days, years, forever. And so it's important to separate that out and not take people's raggediness personally. Because when you start taking it personally, you're going to take it out on everybody else. And now you definitely will be the problem. So what can you do? Take a breath, distance yourself, get with people who actually follow the Bible. And if you're like, I'm not a Christian, okay, whatever your beliefs are, get with the people who are actually following what they're supposed to be doing, not just doing dirt and then hiding behind their religion or their belief system, but people who are actually doing right, encouraging others, motivating others. Accountability is still there, but it's truly with love, not breaking people's spirits and then saying, I'm doing it out of love, because that's not it. And so, two-faced people, how can you spot them? Pay attention to how much information they're trying to get out of you. Watch how they treat people. Listen to the stories that's going around. Also, pay attention to the people who are not in mess and see who they talk to, what they do, because that'll let you know what's really going on. And you take your issues to the proper people. A lot of times in church, there's protocol, leadership. So you got to check out leadership. And if you're like, Sent it up the flagpole and still not happening. Okay, well, what are your options? Do you need to cut up and show out in church? No. Because first, if you have an issue, you go to the person that you have an issue with. And if that doesn't work, you go get what? Neutral party, third party. If the person's not neutral, can't count on them. And sometimes things can be fixed immediately. Sometimes it takes time. And sometimes it won't be fixed today or ever. But at the end of the day, stay true to yourself. Remember that these people have their own stuff that they're dealing with and they are taking it out on everybody else. And since you know better, you're going to do better. And with your grief, process it, understand what's happening, why it's happening, and do what is necessary for you to take care of yourself and remove yourself from the chaos. Because everybody in church, they're not raggedy, but some people's behavior, totally raggedy. So also pay attention to the people that you allow to influence you, because some people will tell you that you just need to stay away and just cut up and all that stuff. Mm-mm. Take time out, process yourself, process your behavior, your thoughts, who you're hanging around, what you intend on doing, and of course, pray, get in your word, whatever book you read, get around people who are like minded, that want everybody to grow, encourage, and hold each other accountable. And that's how you grow together. So watch out for all of these two-faced people out here. And if you want, I can do a whole list of different types of two-faced people to watch out for. But right now, we're going to leave it right here. And again, watch out for those two-faced people. And just because you tired of people does not mean you tired of this church. So until the next time, take care.